Hello and welcome back to Steady Growth Academy, your number one real estate and success learning platform. Today I'm excited. My name remains Philbert Ondoga, the MD CEO of Steady Growth Properties. And today we'll continue our lessons, our training on real estate, considering the fact that this is the basic class. We've covered a whole lot, from visioning to the mindset for winning, to every other thing. We've covered what is real estate all about. But today I'm excited that we'll be diving into a very special topic, which is real estate terminologies. What are the basic real estate terminologies that you should be familiar with? And these are not just terminologies, but this will be empowering you and educating you to understand things that are very, very important in any form of real estate dealings. So pay very close attention as we begin to explore some of these things at the basic level, while we have even the advanced ones that will be covered on the premium pack. But for this basic level, we'll be talking about land titles, the different types of land titles that we have, what is a hectare, an acre, and a whole lot. Who is an agent? What is commission? What is an offer? Acceptance, counter offer, inspections, appraisals. We'll try as much as we can to see how much of it we cover through the course of this basic training. So quickly, let's dive right in. Let's talk about the first one, which is the most important thing in every real estate transaction. You want to know the title document. The title document. The title document. Now, this is what validates the ownership of a property. So what is a title document? It's a formal, legal, recognized instrument or document that serves as proof of ownership and interest. And it clearly outlines the rights and interests of individuals or companies on a particular piece of land or property. So the title document clearly shows you the land, the boundaries, the size, the purpose of the land, if it's for commercial development or for residential development. It also shows you if the property has any form of encumbrance or not. It's important that you cite the title document. The second thing are, what are the types of title documents that we have in this part of the world and almost globally? First is the C of O, Certificate of Occupancy. This is a valid title document. Another type is the one called the R of O, the Right of Occupancy. Now, permit me to state this clearly as it applies to different jurisdictions based on the peculiarity of each jurisdiction. It's important to note that in land documentation, there are differences that varies based on jurisdictions. And each jurisdiction has its own land documentation. So what that means is this: what applies in Lagos may not necessarily apply in Abuja, as much as there is a general understanding of what documentation should be like, but there are a few disparities, a few differences here and there that applies to specific jurisdictions. But in general, a title document is simply an instrument or a document that legally confers ownership, benefits, interests on a said property to an individual or a company. That makes sense? Now let's move on. Another question a lot of people have is the difference between a hectare, an acre, a plot. So let's talk about this briefly. What is a hectare? Okay, a hectare is a size of land. Now pay attention. A hectare, what is a hectare? A hectare is a size of land which measures 10,000 square meters. This is a hectare. So mostly it is 100 square meter by 100 square meter. This comes to 10,000 square meter, and this is a hectare. A hectare is actually a large piece of land. Let me give you an example of what a hectare is. Okay, before I give you a picture of what a hectare could look like, let's move on to an acre. Then I'll come back to giving you an idea of what a hectare should look like. An acre is 208.7 feet by 208.7 feet. Okay, so something like this. Okay, feet. So if you convert this to square meter, you'll be having something within the range of 4,000 with some fractions as a square meter. So what is an acre or a hectare? I will give you a clear picture of what a hectare looks like. The average Premier League football field is an average size of between 1.5 to 1.6 acre of land. 1.5 to 1.6 acre of land. Acre of land. So it therefore means if we are measuring it by hectare, we are now saying that almost 2 football fields makes a hectare. But measuring it exactly by what we have here, we can clearly state that an hectare has about 2.471 thereabout acres of land in it. So when somebody has an hectare of land, it simply means that the person has over approximately 2.5 acres of land. Now quickly, let's go into the most familiar one that people are used to. It's called plot of land. What is a plot of land? Now most persons argue that 6 plots of land makes up 1 acre or whatever. In a more simplistic approach, what exactly is a plot of land? Now listen to me closely. A plot of land is a designated, measured area of land, usually separated from a larger parcel of land for a particular purpose. The purpose can be for agriculture, for sale, which is a transaction, for erecting a building. That is a plot of land. Now, the best unit of measurement for a plot of land, given the fact that it differs based on jurisdiction, we have a simplistic approach to measuring a plot of land, which is dependent on the developer. But a general understanding of a plot of land is mostly somewhat like this: 50 feet by 100 feet, which is usually somewhere around 465 square meters of land. Averagely, this is what a plot of land is. But in a more simplistic approach, what is a plot of land? In my definition, a plot of land is a designated area of land separated from a larger parcel of land for a particular purpose. Now, in this case, maybe a developer has 10 hectares of land and he decided to apportion several plots out of that 10 hectares. To a plot, he can name a plot 300 square meter, meaning when you take this particular designated area of land, the total area of that land is going to be for 300 square meters, and this is the value, the price value for it. Another area of land which can still be categorized as a plot may measure 700 square meters, and this is the value for it. Another plot of land can be 500 square meters, and this is the value for it. So there is no one size fits all for the definition of a plot of land. But by way of understanding, a plot of land is a designated area of land separated from a larger parcel of land for a particular purpose. That is a plot of land. So it can be 300 square meters, 400 square meters, 500 square meters, because judging from Nigeria, some states say a plot of land for them is 465 square meters. Other states do 300 square meters. Some other places do 500 square meters. So there is no one size fits all for a plot of land. But what a plot of land is emphatically is the fact that it's a cut out area of land, usually from a larger parcel of land, that is designated for a particular purpose. So in this case, you are a buyer and the developer is a seller and is willing to let go of a particular area of land for a specific value, for a specific amount. So it can now be said that you are buying a plot of land. But what you can know emphatically is the fact that a hectare is 10,000 square meters, usually 100 by 100 square meters, and an acre is about 4,000 square meters approximately. Now quickly, what you should know after understanding what a plot is, standard is that a hectare is 10,000 square meters, an acre is about 4,000 square meters, and in an hectare you can have approximately almost 2.5 acres of land. In it, averagely about 6 to more plots makes up a hectare, depending on your unit of measurement for the specific area of land. Now quickly, let's move on. Another thing we'll be talking about is who is an agent. A lot of people, when they have any form of real estate dealing, the agent is the middleman, someone who connects a buyer to a seller, or in a more pragmatic approach, we can say a professional who facilitates the buying, the selling, and the renting of lands or properties for the purpose of doing what? Managing that transaction and closing that deal and representing the interests of both parties or a particular party in that particular transaction. So sometimes there's a buyer's agent, there's a seller's agent, but we'll get into that disparity, the differences between both of that in the advanced class. So you definitely want to ensure you hit on the premium upgrade and ensure that you are plugged in to the premium package so you can get more in-depth analysis and understanding of most of the terminologies prevalent within the real estate industry, within this space. Okay, now quickly let's move on. What is an offer? An offer, simply put, is what I'm proposing to sell a particular property to you. That's an offer. So if this is a property and I say I'm selling this to you for XYZ amount of money, that is an offer. Now what is a counter offer? A counter offer is simply you telling me what you would like to offer for it. That's a counter offer. So in other words, an offer is a proposal, okay, for the purchase of a particular item, a property in this case. A counter offer is a proposal to an original offer. So there is an original offer which states that this can only go for XYZ. There's a counter offer which comes in the form of a proposal to the original offer. So the original offer was XYZ, in this case maybe $10,000, and then a counter offer comes as maybe $8,000, $9,000. Okay, it's a proposal to the original offer. And then there's something called acceptance. Acceptance is when we have had the dialogue, an offer, a counter offer, and then we have an understanding. That is acceptance. But remember, all transactions, it's important you have a legal documentation to all transactions. So quickly, I want to mention some things that suffices as a title document. Okay, so remember, under title documentation, we've talked about C of O, R of O, but it's also important to note that a title documentation that is valid is also a deed. A deed of assignment. A deed of assignment is an owner transferring ownership, interest from one party to the other. A deed of conveyance is an owner transferring interest, ownership from the owner to the buyer. In this case, from the seller to the buyer. And that can also suffice as a title for the land. A document that transfers rights and ownership to you. And of course, we'll also talk about the power of attorney. This we will explore in much larger perspective on the premium pack, so you definitely want to ensure you plug into that. Now, before we begin to wrap this up, I just want to mention a few things as pertaining some of the basic things that are prevalent within the real estate space. Number one is commission. Although we'll look at that in a more deeper understanding, you know, in the premium pack. What is a commission? A commission is simply what an agent gets for facilitating that transaction between the buyer and the seller. Okay, that's commission. It is not defined, but then there are certain parameters that measures expectations within that very context. So bear that in mind, that commission is something that is very, very important. In fact, arguably is the only reason why an agent will want to mediate between a buyer and a seller to facilitate that transaction and ensure that that deal is closed. So it's important that you know that. And quickly, I'll just make mention of a few other things like handing over and possession. When there is an acceptance, what we need to get into is called paperwork, documentation. So transfer of titles, and then we are now doing what? Execution. We are signing on that agreement to make it legally binding. And when we do that, there is a handover of those documentation that gives me a legal ground to become an owner of that property. But remember, by law, it is not just that is good, but not enough. You have to now proceed into taking possession. I'll give you an example. You buy a property and you leave it, regardless of how fantastic the title is, arguably, and you leave that land for years on ending, 5 years, 7 years, and by the time you come back, another person has built on that property, you are going to have an unnecessary fracas, an unnecessary battle or dispute as to the ownership of the property. So to ensure you secure full ownership of a said property, it is important, in fact, it is expedient that you take possession, even if it's just doing a perimeter fencing and an excavation or a DPC. It's important, in fact, in your own interest, it is very important that you take possession. Not disputing the fact that you have documentation that gives you all the rights to the ownership of the said property. But it's important, it's just like putting an icing on the cake, okay? So let's get it right. Take possession. Now, quickly, we'll be wrapping up this basic conversation around the real estate terminologies. On the advanced class, we'll be looking at a whole lot of other things around JV, joint ventures. I made mention of commissions. I made mention of the power of attorney. And then we'll be looking at the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, the payment plans, the documentation, the survey plans. All of this we'll look at in detail under the premium pack when we'll talk about the real estate terminologies that are prevalent within the industry. Now, in closing, it is very, very important. I need to reinstate this emphatically, that it's important that you understand that land documentation is different and in most cases based on jurisdiction. So it therefore means that as you are listening to this, probably in Lagos, in Dubai, in the United States, in South Africa, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, there is no one size fits all. Because the jurisdiction differs, in most cases you have different land documentation that differs based on jurisdiction. So it's important that I make mention of that, okay? For instance, in Nigeria, there's something called the governor's consent. In Lagos, in Abuja, there's nothing like the governor's consent because there's no governor. So you need to understand, in Abuja, we have FCDA C of O, FCDA R of O. Now, these are things that we will even look at in even much more detail on the premium pack. So get excited. Abundance lives here. In closing, remember, the journey that you just started is an incredible one. I want to applaud you for that. But to experience above and beyond massive value, you need to subscribe to the premium pack where you can get more advanced knowledge on what we are looking at. Now, quickly on the next class, we'll be talking about positioning for real estate success. I'm fired up. I'm excited to share with you a few insights on how to position for massive success within the real estate space. Remember, Steady Growth Academy bringing you this amazing value, which is your #1 success and real estate learning platform. We are excited and fired up to be on this journey with you as we look forward to seeing you enjoy amazing value and experience massive success on your journey. Welcome on board. Come on, let's go. Abundance lives here.